All right. Hey, everybody. What's up, Myles?
Hey. How's it going?
It's going, man. Listen.
I feel like I match your microphone today. I'm wearing purple. Your microphone looks a little purple. I coordinated.
Yeah, it's a little purple. It's a little, yeah, almost. There you go. Hey, listen, I'm glad that you're paying so much attention that you're trying to interior design yourself to the studio here. I think it's awesome.
All part of the branding.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Man, I can't seem to catch a break here trying to get all this stuff up and running. But, man, what a great show we had last week. I mean, I've had so many comments and follow-ups from people asking questions, about what Alex was talking about. And I think that it's, I mean, it's all relative, so relative that we thought, because this week we're taking a break from having a guest on, because next week's a big week, as we can see in the comments and tickers below. We're going to have a former NFL football player on the show. How cool is that? Dominic Ruffin. Myles,
right.
you interviewed him on a podcast, and you're like, you know what? We got to get him on the show. What's so great about Dominic, other than he made the NFL? That makes him great by itself, right?
Sure. Yeah. It certainly sets him apart. Now, he's just, I think let's just say he's a professional, right? He was a professional athlete. And I feel like he's a professional in every area of his life, the way he shows up, the way he approaches everything that he does, and the attitude that he takes. And so he's going to have a lot to share about this idea of how do you increase influence and
Right,
how he's been able to, really professional football player, right? That doesn't directly apply to many career paths. So I think
right.
he can talk a lot to how do you transfer what you did in one area to how you approach another area, and what might seem unrelated as far as influence goes, how you can use it to multiply and level up quicker. So
Yeah, for
he's
sure.
definitely got good stuff to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that call because of some scheduling conflicts. We're actually going to be live next week at 12 noon, not 1 p.m., trying to accommodate some schedules, because everybody's so busy. So we won't do that often, but next week's a good interview for the show, and we want to make sure we're available to have them on. So next week, everybody, we're going to go live at 12 noon only next week. And we are going to have the former NFL football player on, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, Myles, what did you learn from last week with having our friend Alex on the show?
Yeah, I learned a bunch. It was good. I really think it's timely for the construction audience, right? And a lot of people that you and I know, is what he had to say is so relevant, and everything he said about why people don't do video, I've heard before from people in the construction industry, right? So I think it was good to hear from someone that it is possible to be creative while still stay professional and informative on a platform like LinkedIn that isn't the Facebook of social media, where people feel like they can share those funny rap video type content pieces. So I think my biggest takeaway from him, what I learned, was that, because I think it's something I needed to hear too. I've been podcasting for 3 years now, and that's all audio, no video. And I know I need to do video, but I've just kind of been dragging my feet because it's just one more thing to do. But a lot of what he said resonated with me, and it was sort of the kick in the butt I needed to start doing more video projects myself, and to level up on the content I'm putting out there. So he had a lot of great stuff to share.
Yeah, no, he really did. And I think, let's kind of take a recap and a walk down this whole conversation, because it is super, super pertinent to understand. And for those of you that are joining in that aren't video folks, like Myles, who is a podcaster, we're going to ask some tough questions of Myles today on some of his thoughts and how does a podcaster differentiate themselves, right? We were talking off show. I mean, I can put on my, like I use my images where I can make myself look like a Viking, or I can dress in American, flag uniform, 4th of July. I can differentiate myself that way. So we're going to get into a little bit about, hey, Myles, let's make you think a little bit how you can differentiate yourself the same way, because video isn't for everybody. We'd be remiss to think that we're going to convince everybody to hop on video because a lot of people just don't know how to get started that way, and they'd be more comfortable just talking into a mic without people seeing them. So with that said, one of the first things that Alex brought up, Myles, was the same thing Professor Nez brought up, was the same things that Brandon Palusic from Social Butterfly brought up. And that was kind of that your profile on LinkedIn is your resume. It is who you are, and it needs to speak to who you are. So they all talked about this, optimizing your profile for success. Right.
Yeah. And so if we think about it like someone in the housing industry, right? This is your curb appeal. This is what people see from the street before they decide they want to ring the doorbell and get a tour of the house, right? Or buy the house or rent an apartment, whatever. So it's important to make sure you're optimizing all the different areas of the profile: the banner, the summary section, the featured section, your own personal profile, the information you're including on your professional history, so that when someone comes across your page, which is, like Alex said, it's like your website on LinkedIn, that they see something that makes them want to stay and they want to interact with you. It can't just be like, hey, promise me I'm good at this. Like, hey, just trust me, it's a really well-built house. You don't need to see it, right? It doesn't work. You have to have the curb appeal, whether you're building a house or you're building your personal brand.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You know what the greatest thing is? If we start looking at the numbers, we talk about Gary Vee all the time, and Gary Vee says, this is the biggest land grab, the internet of our days
Right.
right now. This is like the old West where they had the land grab, run out, put your stake in, because right now it's free. Being on LinkedIn is free. You can pay for the premium, but it's free. Being on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all free. This is now the chance to make your mark, and they've all gone towards video as their main source, or audio as their main source. So what's interesting about LinkedIn, Jen pulled some statistics, is only 10% of marketers say they are investing in LinkedIn. Only 10%. Think about that. Think about the opportunity there. If only 10% of investor or marketers are investing in LinkedIn, Myles, and LinkedIn is growing leaps and bounds right now, doesn't that sound like an opportunity not to be lost, whether you want to be an influencer or you just want to be known in your business as a professional and as an expert?
Oh, for sure. Especially when you factor in other external factors. Look at what's happening with Facebook and people leaving the platform with their advertising dollars because they don't agree with things that are happening behind the scenes. All this won't it happen with TikTok and getting banned and whatever is going to happen there. So there's LinkedIn, right, ready and waiting for people to flock to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that number goes up, but it's about the land grab, right? You want to be a part of the 10% now so that you're not stuck in the bottom 90% later when everyone else jumps on the bandwagon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. And you know what? There's only about 15% of them are actually even creating content. So of that 10%, only 15% of them are really creating regular content on LinkedIn. So these are just new stats that we pulled up, and it's working, Myles. It's working for me. I know it's working for you, and that's what we're kind of driving home here, especially in my world of offsite. I want the business and offsite to grow. So, it's what I live and drive on every day, and what I'm becoming known for. But now's the time. Everybody, at least within my community of offsite, they should be on here just like I'm on here, going at it, because it's an open playing field. It's like running. If we're going to talk about NFL football, it's like the 100-yard or 90-yard return. Right? It's from one end zone to another. It's wide open. You only have to run past 3 people, and most of them, don't have long legs, and you can fly right past them.
Yeah, throw a spin move in there, you're good to go. Yeah. Well, I think and you're right. And I think that points to something else Alex said about people are sort of concerned about what somebody's going to think, or they're going to judge them. But when you look at that stat, how many people are just literally on the sidelines, again, going in on these football analogies, on the sidelines watching the game happen? Are they really concerned with judging you, or are they really just in on taking in the action, right, and trying to learn how to play the game themselves? So I think we got to get out of our own ways in certain respects there when it comes to content creation. So few people are actually playing the game. So many people are watching it that nobody's going to laugh at you if you fall down, on the field. They're going to respect the fact that you're even playing. And so you just got to get up and keep going.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, even yesterday, I was live on location. I just grabbed the camera. I went in one of the emergency room pods, and I just do that's a wrap. And I show a little bit about what's happening and how great the experiences was. And I mean, and that's all it takes. It doesn't listen. There's no professional film crew behind this camera. There's me, right? And I think people have to understand it's the do it scared. We talk about it all the time. Mentality.
Right.
Just put it out there. But on LinkedIn, especially, don't show us your meal unless you're a chef and this is what you do.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Right. Love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right. So optimizing your profile for success, right? Right now, there are so many people unemployed, so many people looking to make changes, so many people on the fence if they're going to get rehired, so many people that are only making 50% of their income because that's what happened to their pay. How important in your mind, and what is one of the first things that Alex and Professor Nez both, said that you need to do to optimize your LinkedIn profile? You remember?
Yeah, I think it's a 1-2 punch. It's the banner up top. So many people just leave it blank, and it's just this blue thing, or it's a picture of a sunset at the beach or something that just, again, it's not Facebook. It doesn't matter to business.
Right.
That's such important real estate. Again, talking about video being visual, to put a graphic up there that says, what do you do? What's your mission? What are you here for? What can you provide? Any of those things.
Yeah.
You want an example, yours is a good one, Dave, where you're saying you're telling people stories unedited, and it fits with your branding of Dave Cooper Live, right? It's unedited. And then as you go forward, the next important thing, would of course be having a professional photograph, right? That's sort of a given. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But then below it is the summary. The summary shouldn't be, I'm a motivated professional who works well in teams and all the corny, like
I've
stereotypical
increased
resume
sales
stuff.
110% in my first quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's not 1985 anymore, right? Throw the resume writing book out the window and just say what it is you do, what's your mission, what you're here for, how can you help somebody, what services do you provide. You can
Right.
be conversational with it. It doesn't have to be uptight, but you just got to give your pitch. You're a little bit of a, not so much an elevator pitch, but like the escalator pitch, right? Tell
Yeah.
a little bit of a story, get people interested. And then as they go down, they're going to check out your professional experience, the activity, if you've posted things. And in there too, there's a featured section, which not too many people populate, where you can call up and link to websites online for online portfolios. You can upload documents of things you've done in the past.
Right.
You can really showcase a portfolio of your work directly on LinkedIn, going back to the idea that it's your resume or your website, just like you would do on any one of those things. You can add that to LinkedIn. So you're putting your best foot forward as many places as possible.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100% with that. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. It's not that hard to do, but definitely make sure you fill everything out, and I don't know. I think it'll do wonders for people if they just spend a little bit of time on it, especially in today's day and age where most people are all working virtually and scanning the web consistently
Right.
all day long. So, all right. So optimizing your profile, step number 1. And then step number 2 was creative content strategy, right? Be
Yeah.
creative in what you're going to put out there or not. But I mean, putting out content and scheduling when you do content is super important. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And I think here the word creative takes on two connotations. In marketing, when people say creative, it can mean video, photos, copy, which is also the words you say if you're not
Right.
familiar with the term copy. So when people say I need to refresh my creative, they're talking about all of that mixed together. So that's
Yeah.
basically what are you putting out there? How do you make sure that it's fresh? Visually, it's different. The words are updated. It's not just the same stale thing all the time. So, and then the content strategy is what are you going to post when? What I liked about Alex's presentation was he's just smushing the two together and combining them. He's being creative with his creative, but then also creative with the content strategy with things like the rap battles and some of the other things he's putting out there, where it's not the typical, tighten up your tie in a video and say, I'm here to tell you 3 things
Right.
about X, Y, and Z, and then they're checked out. He's
Yeah.
rapping the difference between sales and marketing or a founder versus an employee. So
Yeah.
you want to share it with all your marketing pals and say, yeah, sales sucks and vice versa, right? And then that drives engagement, spreads word about you, which helps increase your influence, spread your personal brand. It all
Right.
feeds the original mission. It's just going about it a different way that most people wouldn't think to do or feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, the guy's literally singing and rapping on LinkedIn. How many people have the guts to do that, right? But
I
that's what makes it
know.
work.
But he also has perfect hair. I always say that with him. Alex has like the perfect haircut. Like every time I see him, his wife must be a hairdresser or somebody in his family. I don't know, but that guy never, for as much content he puts out, it always seems like he has a fresh haircut. I think it's great.
Seriously.
But you're absolutely right. Creative content, and it doesn't have to be creative in the sense like what he's doing. What he's doing actually takes production time. It takes time off camera to really make what he's putting out there do. But for what he's doing, he has to do that to catch the attention of the people or the consumers or who they want to join, right? So Alex needs that. But for the rest of us, even to include myself, I'm not doing a whole lot of creative, like he's doing. I'm just getting out here. I'm pushing content that's important to our industry, important to me, that I think will help others, right? Trying to always continue a conversation. And I think that holds true in anybody's industry. I don't care if you're an insurance broker, a realtor, Marcelo, he's in the waste management. I think the guy's up there with, tens of thousands of followers at this point. But he just talks about what's important in his world.
Right.
And there's other people, waste management. There's a lot of people in waste management business,
Yeah.
Who would have thought, we're going to have him on the show too. But I think that's what we need to understand.
Yeah. And I think part of content that dovetails into this that Alex brought up, which I think is important, beyond just what are you posting when and, is a rap battle or not, right? part of the content you're creating is how you show up and engage with people who are engaging with
Yeah.
you. So he made that comment where someone said, "Oh, well, I posted a couple of videos and nobody really cared, or I only reached 5 people," and
Right.
pulled them up. And there were like 7 comments that person didn't respond to. So the content you create is not just the initial post, it's how you respond to people that like, share, and comment, how you connect and follow up to that content afterwards. That's all part of the strategy, and it all helps feed future engagement on future content you're putting out there. You really can't have one without the other.
No, you definitely can't. I'm actually gonna screen share something. I want to show you. This is have you ever
Yeah,
heard of
so
Roger Wakefield?
I have not.
Well, you're about to, Miles. Let me
All
see if I can
right. Teach
find
me
my
something.
screen. I gotta look down here. Huh? All right, so this is
So,
Roger Wakefield. Roger, here, I'll get another screen in a second. Roger is a plumber.
nice.
He's a plumber. 12,000
Super plumber there.
followers.
Look at that.
And so he public speaks. I think he's reached over 30,000 followers on YouTube, right? So here we are talking increasing influence. What in the heck would a plumber want to increase their influence for on LinkedIn or any other platform? I mean, think about it, right? Why is Roger doing what he's doing? And I think he was just ranked one of the top influencers on LinkedIn right now. Top 10. He was on a top 10 list here on LinkedIn. So, I mean, when we think about these things, I think that's kind of what's super, super interesting to understand how powerful this platform is and why they do it. And he does know what he does? He posts video on how to unclog your toilet. Like
Nice.
he posts videos of things he does every day to help the consumer out, and it's helped grow his business because most people don't want to do it. They're going to call him anyhow. But he's building this entire relationship offline with people, with some of his craziness that he does, which is cool. Look at him. How can you not like that guy?
I think what's cool about that as an example, and for any field, right, is eventually he's not going to want to be a plumber anymore, right? He's going to want to hire. But now by building up all this content, he could consult and be the guy that teaches other plumber, other tradespeople how to do their marketing, how to increase their personal brand. He's making a business out of who he is, not the trade that he performs. And it's a solid retirement plan, solid backup plan if anything were to go south in his main business. So it's really like building up your plan B while you're also fueling your plan A. And I don't think people give enough credit to that portion of everything we're talking about.
Plan A and then plan B is what you're telling me?
Well, yeah, plan B almost fuels plan A, right? And then plan B eventually becomes plan A once you're done with that. It's not like mutually exclusive. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, listen, everyone. If you're just joining us, we are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And we have people joining from YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn today, which is great. So nice. We'll do a quick shout out. We got Buzz Hallow. I can't say his name. Holvur. How do you say it, Miles? You try it.
I'm not going to try it.
Buzz, you got to send me how to say your name. Maybe there's a Google on it. I don't know how to say it, but I want to get it right. I love it. All right, we got good old George Ryman. Hey, George, good morning. Thanks for tuning in today. And, of course, Jennifer is in the background making comments about T-shirts with everybody here, at least on LinkedIn. So, all right, everyone, let's keep moving through this. This is great. I love all the content that we're actually putting out there. If you don't know Roger Wakefield, check the guy out. It's pretty impressive what he's done for the plumbing industry. So there is opportunity for everybody. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. Okay,
for sure.
Next thing. This is the one I think is going to be interesting, Miles. Video or podcast editing would be the next thing. All right, you've convinced us to take video or make videos, or you've convinced me to do a podcast. How you edit it? Editing is pretty simple. You can do it from your phone. But how do you make yourself different from everybody else that's doing it, Miles?
In the editing or just in the final product?
In the final product, what you're going to put out there, right? We were talking earlier, podcasts, a lot of them start the same way and they have an intro and what the podcast is about. And then they say, and today we're going to have so-and-so on and we're going to talk about X, Y, Z. Let's get into it. Versus we just start going, hey, what's up, Miles? And we just start BSing, right?
Well, so there's an example, right? That's whatever it is. If you look at what everybody else is doing, don't do that and do something different or do it in your own way. I was a podcast guest for somebody last Thursday night.
Okay.
And the way he started it, literally, like I jumped. I was like not ready for this. So I'm sitting here, we're on video, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna get started. Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it, man." And he literally went like this. All right, everybody, it's Simon Higgs, and we're here. And he just like kind of like went up to like 12, right? So instead of it being NPR, like, "Hello, you're here with Smooth Nights with Myles," right? And you almost want to fall asleep to their audio presentation. He literally is going to make you jump just by the sound of his
Right.
voice.
I love it.
And so there's ways to show your personality on video, like you said, with the American flag jump shooter and the filters, right? But when you have audio, all you can do is keep the energy high in your voice, or use that to draw attention to certain things. Be really loud, be really soft, focus on not being monotone all the time,
Right.
so that personality shines through and you're holding their interest. But then also you can do effects in audio just like you do in video. It might not be a filter where you look like Guy Fieri, like that one 4th of July thing you had. It could be a sound effect
Right.
when you're about to make a point. It could be really exciting music in the beginning, something that gets people engaged.
Yeah.
And you have to figure that out. So, or just the topic itself. One thing I know I've done is my podcast is not a podcast about a singular topic. You're not going to show up every week and I'm going to be talking about a different version of the same exact topic. I talk to people from all over the place, all over the world, in different genres, about different topics, so that it's like a cornucopia of ideas in one show, not a podcast about a specific, football team. Right.
Yeah. Right.
It's a bunch of different topics, and that's a way that you can be different as well. So to Alex's point about being creative, you just have to find what works for you. And chances are what's working for you is going to be a little bit different than everybody else because you're the only you. And that's going to be part of what differentiates it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And I like your reaction about when he went off in the podcast. But that's what I mean. That's the attention grabber, because there's so many people now that do podcasts, and there's a lot of people that are doing video. And if it's not the content which keeps them, it's or the visual aspect. I think emotionally, somehow with your voice within the first few seconds or a minute, you have to make yourself stand out a little bit. So it's not the love connection with Myles J.
Yeah. Podcast coming soon. Love connection with Myles J. Biggs. Another example I'd say would be audiobooks. I've listened to a couple audiobooks lately.
Yeah.
One was for Gary, one was for Grant Cardone. And both of them, in the middle of reciting their book, were just like, I'm going off script here. This is what I meant by when I read this passage, or this is why it's relevant today, or they reiterate something, and it's almost like they're talking to you and it's a conversation, and they're adding additional value to the original publication. So I think that's something to consider too. A lot of people advocate, and I know I do as well, take the audio from your video and turn it into a podcast, which you can do. But then why would somebody listen to the audio and watch the video, right? Like, what can you do to differentiate that channel? And you can do that by adding additional commentary, giving some behind the scenes nuggets about what they didn't see on camera that went into it, and maybe the intro, and then you play the audio. There's ways to bring them along in your journey as the content producer, so that as the content consumer, it's interesting.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think, my way of differentiating myself is bringing people on in the industry. So there's these expert interviews I do, or these product spotlights. That's how I differentiate myself, right? Going to these locations like yesterday and live streaming on location. And if I didn't have live, I'd do my typical videos like I used to do, and then I would post those videos. And I'm doing it anyhow. And that's what makes it easy and fun for me to do it. And when I say easy, there's a lot of prep that goes into what we do, but that's my differentiation, right? I'm trying to bring awareness and attention by giving people a spotlight, or shining the sun, giving people the sunlight who normally don't see. Or what was the thing? I can't remember now.
I forget what it was too.
Yeah. Well, I put it on the new website coming out, so I better remember.
You're bringing attention to things that people don't often
Yeah. Shining light on people who normally don't see the sunshine, I think, or something like that.
There you go.
Either way. So love it. All right, Myles, why do we do all of this? That's the next question. Like, all right, Dave, I'm happy where I am. My living's good. I make a good living. I'm very content. ... Why increase influence? Why increase awareness? Do you want to use this platform to grow customers? All of these questions, or is it just a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, both, right? It's any of those things. Again, to what's creative for you. Everybody's got to have their own reason for why they do it. Because chances are that person that's asking that question, the way you just framed it, I'm happy the way I am, that person probably shouldn't get into content creation because they're going to be the person that does it for a week and then doesn't do it anymore, right? Something has to drive why you show up to produce content every day. Either you're trying to gain more customers, you want to grow your followers, you're trying to make a name for yourself, you want to impact the world, you just love doing it as a hobby. There's got to be that bigger reason why you're doing it. Just doing it because somebody else is telling you should is never the right reason, right? So you can do one of those things or all of those things, but it's about focusing on the result that is important to you and not the result that most people talk about all the time, right? So many people have a podcast, it doesn't make any money. They start to feel bad about themselves when people ask, "Oh, how much money do you make off this podcast?" And they say
Right.
$0. Well, is that the
Right.
goal? It doesn't. You shouldn't answer that with a different question. Hey, I make 20,000, happiness points off the podcast, whatever it is, right? That's why I do it, not for $1. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
it just depends.
But there is the ancillary, the side to it, whether you're doing it to be recognized, doing it as a hobby, doing it to hopefully get sponsors or whatever people do. And that really comes down to whether you like it or not, you're putting a brand on yourself.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you are branding yourself whether you're an active participant in it or you just let it happen. But
Yeah.
it is happening. And so you can show up and take control or you can let it happen for you. And the decision is up to all of us every day.
Yeah, it really is. I'll give you an example of something that we never even really thought about. But a lot of the guests, if somebody Googles their name, their video interview shows up in the search results, typically on the first page.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is kind of an ancillary thing that started happening. So somebody says, searches George Ryman. And if George was on our show, within a couple weeks, somebody searches that name. Now there's a video of him being on the show. So it's kind of really interesting. Like, these are things that just come out of it and was never intentionally meant to come out of it.
Sure. Yeah, it's all part of search engine optimization.
Right.
That's what that
100%.
is, getting on those organic results in Google. And that's part of it. That goes, a Google search could be another version of your resume, right? And so what are you doing to make sure there's a lot of good, high quality things on that first page for when you're applying for a job, or you're trying to get a loan, you're trying to start a business, whatever those things are, people Google you and you have to ask, what are they going to find?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then, and there isn't an employer out there who does not Google or search social media. Maybe there are, but most of them today try and find whatever dirt they can find on you by doing a search.
Sure.
So if you can hide all your dirt and really good content, right?
That's right.
They said bury it somewhere. If you got bad dirt, that's kind of the key. All right. So with that said, everybody, just a reminder, on July 30th, next Thursday, the show is going to be at 12 noon, so we can accommodate some schedule change. We're going to have Dominic Ruffin, former NFL football player, on, and he's a current entrepreneur. He's going to be live on our show. Myles, who would have thought we'd have, past NFL pro football players on Increasing Influence? Who would have thought, Myles?
Yeah, well, me and you, because we put it together. But I think that is
right. But we didn't. Right? We would have known that a year ago.
Well, exactly. And that's what I was going to say. It's like doing this, showing up, making content, right? Just it redefines what is possible, right? You're sitting on your couch, you're watching this right now. You think to yourself, there's no way I'd ever get to network with these type of people. And the answer is, of course, there's no way you get to ever network with them because you're networking with Netflix and not with these people, right? It starts with one person who links you to another person and another person. And then as your network grows, the types of people you talk to grows, and then you grow. And that, back to why do you do it, money, hobby, or whatever, I think that's the biggest motivator for anyone, should be your personal growth and development. That's why I continue to do it. Sure. I could care less about stats and whatever. I recognize the changes in myself and how I show up in the world professionally and personally, and that's what keeps me going. And this is a perfect example. We're talking to somebody that played in the NFL. How cool was that?
How did that happen? I know. That's what's fun about it. I got Greg Ugaldi on my show once a month. How did that happen? And I think all of it's just fun. All the people we're interviewing. Alex Sheridan, Brandon Paluzik, from Social Butterfly. These are all people that are making difference, and their phones are ringing. And I think it's so much fun that they're joining us every week. And I really am starting to like this format. And I'll just say it publicly about having somebody on and then breaking down what we learned. Having somebody on, breaking down what we learned, or just recapping. Because you know what's really interesting about all this, Myles? It's kind of like building muscle and being healthy. Everybody knows what we have to do. You don't have to go spend $1,000 on a personal trainer. You don't. You have to go work out, and you have to eat clean. And you eat a lot of, like, it's just normal, but it's the same thing over and over again. And that's why we're doing what we do, because it's the same thing with social media. A lot of it's the same thing, just said a different way by somebody else, but it's that repetitive, constant push of content, because the number one asset in the world is
time
and people's
attention. Yep. Well, and that's like so many people say it's too hard to do whatever, too hard to make video, too hard to do content. And you touched on it. It's not hard at all. We know, you know what you have to do. It's not a secret sauce. It's actually easy to lay it out. What's difficult about it, it's not hard. The difficulty comes in the consistency, which we've talked about on you previously. And that consistency is what breeds authority, which increases your overall influence.
Absolutely.
It's just doing what you know is good for you, but it's like the not sexy stuff, right? It's more work, right? Yeah. That's what's good for you, whether it's lifting weights and choosing an apple over chips, all right? It's
that's right.
Over and over.
Well, here's a tip for somebody out there, right? Like, let's say you don't want to get into video editing and you don't want to do the podcast a certain way. And this is even at IBS when I got off stage, and it was interesting after my keynote was people wanted to do live feeds with me. I said, all right, let's just do one, Well, can we set up? No. I said, let's just do one. Hit the live button. Nobody gives a darn. It doesn't matter if the camera's crooked. And we just went live, and I did it one person after another, right? And it was so much fun. And it's same thing. If you want to have a live podcast, you could put your camera just on a piece of paper that you wrote that says, I just don't like being on video, but we're going to do this podcast live. Right here on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you have live access, YouTube, and you can do the same thing. And it's just a matter, you don't have to do video editing. I should just go live everywhere, and then I wouldn't have to edit anything.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, if you don't want to edit, just don't edit. Yeah. I mean, I barely edit a podcast. My editing is stitching in some music, right? But then the interview itself, I don't spend hours agonizing over what I said or whatever, unless a guest says, oh my God, please take that out. I don't take it out. It is what it is. I stitch in the beginning and the end, and it's done, and I'm on to the next one. So same thing. Just go live. Don't worry about big production value of making a movie. Go live the movie. We're already living a movie every single day. It's just whether or not we're recording it or not.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I love it. So the number one thing that comes out of everything that you do in content management or just kind of where you're heading, and I think we'll just summarize the whole conversation with this, is have a strategy.
Yeah. And then execute on that. That strategy.
And that doesn't mean you got to write a book.
Right. No, it's bullet points. Here's what I'm going to get done today. Here's what I'm going to get done this time next week. A little bit of planning in advance so that it's easier. Going back to, it's hard, right? If you have a strategy, it's not as hard to execute because you're showing up and not making a decision and then having to put in the production time. You're just showing up, the decision's made, and now you just do. And that's where you focus your energy. And that turns what's hard into more approachable and easier to do over and over. Yeah,
100%. I agree. So there you have it, everybody. Have a strategy, straight from Myles Biggs. So Myles, why don't you give a big shout out to the old ticker that's been floating below and set this one up for next week, and then we'll give our see you next time.
All right, as another reminder, next week we are coming at you live 12 noon Eastern, and we'll be joined by Dominic Ruffran on the show. He is a former NFL player with the Atlanta Falcons and now an entrepreneur getting into a whole bunch of his own content creation and other business opportunities. So we'll talk to him about how he does what he does and how you can do it too.
Absolutely. Hey, if you made the NFL, you can make it anywhere. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure he'd agree.
Absolutely. All right, Myles, man, another great episode. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on Increasing Influence. Thursday, 12 noon. Be there.